Hi, this is Titles, Talk, and Tipples. I'm JuJu, the author of the Everstein Chronicles. And with me this evening is Tom Frye, the author of Beatrice, 1963, Havelock, the Great American Novel, which includes Scratchin' on the 8 Ball, Cop a Kid,
The Kid, the Cop, and the Con.
The Kid, the Cop, and the Con.
And the Woods of Bloody Mary.
And the Woods of Bloody Mary. Yes. Welcome, Tom. Thank you. And what are we drinking this evening?
I've got just iced coffee.
And I have hot coffee because it's 50 degrees here. So
Is it really?
Oh yeah, we're cold and raining for.
Oh my gosh, it's 110. I mean 109 here today. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, I don't think I wanted that hot, but it's June. It's the middle of June, and we still have our heater on. Yeah.
Well, I switch off between hot and cold coffee. I drink 24-hour cold brew every day.
Okay.
I'll do a hot coffee, but
yeah. Well, cheers.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Scratching on the 8 Ball is my very first born son. It's since 1982 I've had that out.
Okay.
And it was the start of my career in writing.
Okay.
And it's the most lost, stolen, missing book in the public school system here.
That's cool.
Nice.
Nice.
And the librarians blame it on me and tell me that I'm probably telling them to do it just so they'll buy more books. I'm like, no, I would never do that.
That's hilarious.
It is. When that book first came out, it had a marijuana leaf on the front cover, and it was rejected in all elementary schools because of that, because they thought I was pro-drugs. And some middle school teacher read it, and she made it required reading for all middle schools in Lincoln, and found out that I was anti-drug, not pro-drug.
Right. Yeah.
So, and then a lot of kids picked that book up because of that leaf, because it caught their attention. And my publisher was pretty wise back in those days. That was in '82, and he just thought that marijuana leaf would be the catcher. That would be the hook,
Yeah.
And it attracted a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so that book has a character named Reason Nelson, and Reason Nelson goes through my entire series of the Nick's books. He's in the Havelock book, he's in Wounded Arrow, he's in Here Be Dragons, and the rest of that series, the Havelock Emerald series, as a grown-up, as an adult, finally.
Oh, okay.
And in the other books, in 8 Ball, he was a very troubled kid.
Yeah.
With a lot of behavior issues.
Okay.
Yeah, and that book was based on a lot of the kids I worked with. I was a youth worker for 45 years, and my dog is here. I didn't realize.
Oh, that's all right. Animals are allowed.
But when I was 14, I ran away from home, and I ended up in juvenile court, and the judge says I had 3 choices. I could go home, I could go to the detention home, or I could go to jail. And I, of course, mouthed off to her and told her she could go to hell. And the next thing you know, I'm locked up in the detention home.
Yeah.
6 months of probation, and my probation officer at the end asked me to work with 4 kids in Havelock to join their volunteer probation program.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what started my youth work. Those 4 kids all had tragic endings. One died of inhaling aerosol. He took it, and it shut off his lungs. He was 15.
Oh no.
Another boy took 4 different drugs one night, took a horse tranquilizer, washed it down tequila, and smoked dope and snorted coke. He had 4 different drugs in the system.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he thought he could fly, and he got on the overpass, and the cops come to get him to handcuff him and haul him to the ER. While he was at the ER, he told him to get a hold of me. And back in those days, kids jokingly called me Father Fry, because I would come to the park and I would talk to them about drugs. And the cops right away went to St. Patrick's Church, woke up the priest looking for Father Fry.
Oh man.
And Father Witt, of course, knew who I was and said, "Oh, that's who you need." And so I was there for 5 hours with this Kevin, and he was just really out of it. And he looked like he had makeup on. His eyes were all sunken in, and he was hallucinating. He saw the seven-headed dragon from Revelation. He saw Satan over here, demons there, Jesus there. And the next morning, I went home so frustrated from that experience, I started writing a book, and it became Scratching on the 8 Ball.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of the history of that book right there.
Yeah.
But and it includes a lot of true stories. I changed the name of all the kids, except 7 or 8 of them wanted to have their names in my book for immortality reasons. And so, yeah, I changed their first and their last name so it wouldn't be, I would never get sued by them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, because they might change their mind as they get older, right? So
but that's 8 Ball's history, and I've sold 20,000 copies of that book.
wow.
Yeah, and I've got a movie script written for it. I read 10 different books on how to write screenplays and got so confused. I finally found a great book, Screenwriting for Dummies. And I taught myself how to write a script.
Yeah.
You compartmentalize everything. That's
yeah. I'm a scriptwriter too, so
cool.
I use Final Draft though, so it does the formatting for me.
But Patrick Swayze bought a copy of the sequel to 8 Ball, The Kid, the Cop, and the Con.
Yeah.
Doing that Tu Wong Fu movie here in Lincoln. And he come on the set and he had it with him. And a kid that'd been to my camp drug program called me right away and he says, "Patrick bought your book." And
so the 3 books that make up Havelock, the great American novel. I thought I was saying it wrong. Are Scratching on the 8 Ball. What were the Kid, the Cop, and the Con, and what was the third one?
Woods of Bloody Mary.
The Woods of Bloody Mary. Yeah. Oh, okay. And that was about the woman that shot someone someone on her property, right? That's based on a true event.
1966. Mary Partington lived all by herself in a 12-room house that her father built out by Salt Creek, out in the country. It was called Havelock Avenue in those days. It's now called Superior Street because it's a highway. But she had been harassed for years. Kids used to sneak in her house, steal stuff off of her table. They tied her to a chair one night, ate all her food.
Oh my gosh.
They shot her in the stomach through the window with a .22 rifle.
Oh my gosh.
And her family finally gave her a 12 gauge and said, "Keep this in case somebody ever, and this ex-mental patient, 27 years old. We always thought it was a kid when we were kids,
Yeah.
She'll shoot kids, but
yeah, right.
It was a 27-year-old mental patient who climbed in her kitchen window and she blew him away and killed him. And they took her gun away and the harassment continued. And they shot her goats. She had all these goats that she had butter from, and it was terrible.
So they just bullied this one woman at the edge of town.
Yeah, and they called her Bloody Mary because she shot the guy. When I was 14, my best friend and I were riding our motorcycles past her place, and she was sitting on her porch. We thought for sure she had a shotgun in her lap in her rocking chair.
Yeah.
And this guy jumped off her porch and flagged us down. And he says, "There's 3 horses that just got out of the corral." He said, "If you chase them around and get them tired enough to get them back in, I'll pay you $5 a piece." And we looked at each other. We looked over at Mary, and we're like, "Okay." And we chased those horses for about an hour and got them tired out. He paid us, and we looked at her, and she stood up. She had a broom in her hand, and she waved at us. and ever since then, we'd go by and we'd wave at her, and we'd tell all our friends, "Don't flip her off. Don't knock her outhouse over. Don't demolish her mailbox." She was a school teacher.
Okay.
School for years. She loved kids.
Oh, how sad that for her life to go that route where people were so horrible to her.
I include her in the story as a hero. These runaway girls end up at her place, and it's fictional, of course. But no, the story is basically trying to make sure that she's exonerated for all the evil everybody attributed to her, because
Yeah.
she's not an evil lady at all. You know?
Right.
I did produce a few plays based on Scratching on the 8 Ball, and they were voted #1 over a 3-day program for 700 Native kids. It was for Native education, and then we had we did the 8 Ball play at the Joyo Theater the 2 nights of the coldest winter in 2005, and they were packed. It was, and there's no sound system in there, so they had to really, but they listened. You could hear a pin drop. It was great.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
It'd make a great movie. It really
Awesome.
would. It's just
Yeah.
intense, you know.
Yeah.
Most of my novels are based on true crime. The 8 Ball movie. See, I'm talking about a movie already. The 8 Ball book was based on a 1976 killing of an informant here. Her name is Patricia Webb. There were 40 some cases dismissed right away because they had 40 suspects, because she was going to testify against 40 some suspects. And they had to dismiss each one of them by, you know, by number. And her partner bought my van from me when I was 19, and he said he was going to use it to narc on people. And he told me all about her being killed and all that.
Yeah.
And told me the whole story, got me really interested. And so in working with kids here in Havelock, you know, I had a bad experience with the boy that took the 4 different drugs that night. And the next morning is when I started writing that book. I was so frustrated trying to reach kids that I thought I'd have a message. And so that book became my calling card, basically.
Yeah.
And a year after the book came out, the police came to my house and asked me where I got my information for the book, because it was pretty accurate. And I told them the guy's name, and they said, "Oh, did you know he's a suspect in the murder?" I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I didn't get that gut feeling at all. I thought he was too cracked up and too choked up to, you know, he was trying to find the people that did it.
Oh, yeah.
38 years later, there's never been solved. 38 years later, a year ago, I got a call from her ex-husband, who'd been married to her for 4 months and went to Vietnam. And while he's in Nam, she divorced him. He come back to look her up, and she got him in a fight with a biker club. And he said, if I wouldn't have won that fight that night, I would have died. And he said, and I think I know who did it. And he thought these bikers were responsible. So I just told him who the lead investigator was and to call him. Nothing ever.
That's that's the best way to deal with it. Right.
Well, I got a strange call one night too from a guy who said, if you don't have a gun, you better get one. He said, because the people that killed her may come looking for you someday. I'm like, who is this? Click.
Yeah. So far you're okay. And it's under a fictional. It's fictional. So right.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Yeah.
But no, that book and the Bloody Mary book, I mean, she did shoot somebody in 1966. So most of my stuff is based on, like, you know, true crime, but it's fictional, of course. And I had all my kids I worked with, I changed their names, but their personalities come alive in the book. I worked with a lot of defiant disorder kids, behavior disorder kids, kids who were on so many meds. I mean, you know, it's like back in the day, they just experimented with a lot of these kids because they didn't know what to use, you know. You know, Ritalin and some of the other drugs that they were just being experimenting with them, and some of them have paradoxical effects. Some of them do the opposite of what you're expecting the pills to do. So you know, but I had 12 different kids in my home, not at one time, but as a foster parent. So I picked up a lot of information and a lot of real life facts that I just put in my stories. They come out in my books. It's kind of like therapy for me, you know?
Oh, yeah. It's a lot to take on working with kids. So
I was a truancy tracker. I had my own program. I got 60 wards of state to school, to court, and to drug treatment. And that went on for 3 years. It was about 24/7 job, and most exciting time of my life. You know?
Sure.
I would take a squirt gun in the mornings to a kid's house, and if he wasn't awake, he would get blasted.
You kept them on track, huh?
I did. If they were ready, we got Mickey D's in the morning. But if they weren't, they got a drenching.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you work with kids anymore, or you're retired from that?
I'm totally retired from that. Yeah. There's just too much going on now. I'm so glad I'm not working with, like, I was starting to work with gang units before I closed down everything, and boy, that's dangerous. You know.
Oh yeah.
You don't even want to touch that.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'd rather write about it now, and I'm reading right now for the Library of the Blind. I'm reading my biography, and oh my gosh, it's like therapy every Tuesday.
Nice. And what is your biography called?
It's called Behind the Eight Ball.
Oh, okay. I was actually going to ask you, because I saw that on Rick's website, and I was like, oh, what's the difference between, this is something different. Yeah, because I wrote it down, and then I thought I even have Behind the Eight Ball written down, and then I went on Amazon to read the little blurb on the book on Scratching the Eight Ball, and I was like, I marked out behind because I thought I had written it down wrong, but I hadn't. I had actually seen it and wrote it down.
It's behind what Eight Ball stands for. Everything that Eight Ball is about, that's behind that. So
okay,
that's why it's that way. It's 45 years worth of my youth work.
Oh.
All crammed into a 200-page book. I have 12 of my books recorded as audiobooks on audible.com right now.
Oh.
And that whole series on there, the Havelock Emerald series. And that's what the Havelock, the Great American Novel, is a prelude to all those books.
So now we're about to delve into Beatrice 1963. So I do want to say this about couple of your covers. So I noticed that you have a couple different covers because the books have been published at different times.
Right.
And I think it's the current cover for Scratching on the Eight Ball. It's a very nice cover of a boy on the front. Is that your current cover?
Boy, yeah, I think so. Is it black and white or gray with a stone wall behind him? A brick wall? Yeah. That was done by a friend of mine who's a wildlife artist, and he never does faces very well, but I thought he nailed that one.
It's a very it seems very poignant for, troubled youth. You just kind of get that feeling. So it's a beautiful painting. And then I wanted to say too that I love the cover of Beatrice 1963. So
that was done by my graphics guy here at Goldenrod Printing. And I needed an old look because it's an old town, and it's actually Beatrice is the name. Beatrice 1963.
Oh, Beatrice. Oh, okay.
No, that's okay, because everybody always calls it.
Sure, because it's spelled exactly like Beatrice. So
it's it was named after a girl named Beatrice, and they call it Beatrice. So it's crazy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
My mom grew up there, and every Sunday as a little kid, I had to go down there to my grandparents so we could watch Lawrence Welk and the Smothers Brothers and all those, But my
love the Smothers Brothers. They were hilarious.
Oh, no kidding. My grandpa was Native American. He was Lakota. His mother was full-blooded Lakota. And a little boy got burned in a fire down there one night, and they were going to amputate his legs. The doctor was. And Rebecca Bauer, my great-grandmother, doctored him up with her Indian medicine. And the boy grew up to be the fire marshal of Beatrice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a great story.
It is. So I used to listen to my grandpa tell these fantastic stories on the back porch.
Yeah.
And, he'd be chewing Red Man, and he'd say, "You want to chew?" And I go, "Yeah," and he'd give me juicy fruit instead. But but he got to telling me so many stories that it just filled my head with all these,
Yeah.
And my uncle is a storyteller too, and he was a career criminal. I won't get into all his. He was a regular John Dillinger. But the thing about Beatrice is the Hawkins clan, this is my family, had a agreement with the Kennedy clan to run rum. They were rum runners.
Mm.
And my uncle was mysteriously killed one night in his den, and they made it look like a suicide. They put the piano up against the door, they opened the window, and he had a shotgun in his hand. But my other uncles all said they thought the Kennedy clan had killed him. And so it gave me a great idea for a story. And my mom's best friend's dad had driven around Beatrice one night with a gun in his car because there were window peekers in those days, people that walked up the windows.
Yeah.
So he carried a gun in his car. He just bought his new car. It took him 3 years to save up for it. And a guy pulled up behind him and hit him at a stop sign. And he got out of his car and he shot the guy and killed him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, ended up life in prison. This is my mom's best friend's dad.
Oh goodness.
So it gave me an idea for a story. So yeah, so I eventually knew I was going to write a story about that town, and I did. And it turned to be a sci-fi kind of a mystery thriller.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's sci-fi. Okay.
Yeah, Knights of the Golden Circle, Jesse James's Gold, and an experimental island, and a virus that escaped. I actually started writing this stuff before I even heard about the coronavirus.
Yeah.
And I did research on Mary Sherman. Mary Sherman was a cancer doctor who was mysteriously killed one night, and her arm was severed by a laser beam that they used to detract cancerous cells from people. Her whole arm was severed by this beam, and they found her in her apartment dead. But she was in cahoots with Lee Harvey Oswald, and there was another guy in that movie that Oliver Stone made. And Oswald and this guy had 5,000 rats in their apartment complex, and she was going over there to study these rats. This Mary Sherman. It's a fantastic story. You ought to look it up.
Wow.
It's all about viruses and how they started, and so I was way ahead of my time on that book.
And when did you write Beatrice, 1963?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay. Yeah.
Just before I ever found out about this virus,
Right. Yeah.
And I had this had a flea with the virus on it, and the flea got onto a cat, and a cat got attacked by an owl, and an owl flew with it, and it got transported all over the place, and that was just a weird thing. But
yeah.
but there was a gypsy clan that lived in Beatrice. My uncle was friends with all the gypsies down there, real gypsies from Romania. And so I wrote about them, and there were a sect called the Shin Gain, who were responsible for hiding Joseph and Mary when they went to Egypt with the baby Jesus, when Herod was killing 2-year-olds. This sect of gypsies actually hid Joseph and Mary in Egypt.
Oh, okay.
So I had this tie-in with that, and I don't know. It's a great story.
Sounds like a very convoluted, nice, lots going on, and it all comes together.
You probably never heard of Robbers Cave, but Robbers Cave is here in Lincoln, and it was rumored that Jesse James hid his gold there. And a friend of mine who follows in my footsteps almost, he works with kids and he's a mentor. He does tours 24/7. I mean, he's taking people through there. He's taking the James family through there. They came up from Kansas.
Okay.
And he takes tours and takes people through there. So I included that in my book, that they found some of the treasure at Robbers Cave, and it's a crazy story. I don't,
And what I read, it sounds like 2 kids are the main characters of the book, and they're the ones that go on all these adventures and stuff. So is it written for adults though, or can kids read this book?
Oh, it's for kids. Every story I write, I had a professor do a paradigm of my writing. He says, you write at an 8th grade level. I'm like, I do? And he goes, yeah, that's good. He says, most people read an 8th grade level.
Oh, okay.
Said,
So that's great.
yeah.
Nice.
But no, it's not all adult. It's for young people, but adults can read it. And
sure. Oh yeah. I'm just wondering, because sometimes just because kids are the main characters does not mean the book is for kids, depending on, if there's murder and death and stuff, but is it like geared towards,
the one kid is the son of the sheriff down there, and it takes place in the 60s. It takes place on the day Kennedy was shot in Dallas.
Okay.
So that's the day another Kennedy was shot in Beatrice. So and so it's a tie-in on that. But this boy is the son of the sheriff, and the other boy is Native American, which falls right into my family. My grandfather and my great grandmother were Native, and she's in the story. I got Rebecca Bauer in the story, and my grandpa's in the story, and so kind of like it's a family thing. But these two boys, they witness this shooting. They're supposed to be in school, and they're skipping school.
Oh.
They're hiding in their treehouse, and right in front of them in the street, boom, this accident takes place, and they see the shooting, and so they witness it, and they see what happens, and they don't know who to tell because
they have to admit that they were skipping school. That sounds like a really fun book. And it's got a beautiful cover. It definitely, you could get the sense of the mystery and stuff by the cover.
Yep. And I think if you another bell?
Yeah, another bell. That means we're out of time, actually. So it goes by fast. Go ahead and finish that last thought.
Well, just like taking a walk down in Beatrice, I think all that comes back to you. If you go down there, you can just picture. And I wrote about Havelock, which is a suburb. I wrote about Seward, which is a small community, and that's in the Nebraska authors book. They list me as Tom Frye, the author from Havelock, Nebraska. And Havelock's just it's not Nebraska. It's a suburb.
It's right. You're putting it on the map.
I am. The last story. I told this story one night about Bob Melton was a gun runner, and he owned Misty's, the big steakhouse here. And he had a plaque in there dedicated to him from the Irish Republican Army because he sent them guns. And I saw it one night. I climbed up on a stool and I read it. And he said, "What the hell are you doing up there?" I said, "Bob, that's IRA. What you got that in Havelock for? That's none of your damn business." So I found out that he was a gun runner and he sent him money. I talked to Jackie and Pete Wolf, and they told me they were in Dublin and in a bookstore, and there was a map of Nebraska on the wall, and somebody had crossed out Lincoln as the capital and written in Havelock in big red letters. They thought right away Bob Milton, because he used to have the mayor from Dublin in Havelock every St. Patty's Day at Misty's Steakhouse. So I included that in my story. That's where the Havelock Emerald comes from. It's the pub, the Irish pub that has the alternative room that leads to a medieval realm. It's
nice. Cool.
So there's a big history to the whole thing, but I put Havelock on the map.
Yeah, there you go.
Charles Lindbergh used to fly in here, and he'd eat donuts and have coffee at the California lunchroom, which is a little lunchroom that this father, he wanted to go to California and start a lunchroom. He came from Chicago and landed in Havelock, and that's as far as he got.
Wow.
So the California lunchroom. but Charles Lindbergh used to come in there, and Patsy was the owner of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody loved her, and he'd come in and have donuts and coffee with her. And if anybody would ever say how insignificant Havelock was, she'd say, "Charlie sat right there in that chair."
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So we've got Tom Frye, the author of Havelock, the Great American Novel, which includes three of his other novels, Beatrice, 1963, and Scratching on the 8 Ball, and Woods of Bloody Mary, and
those are all three included in that
all
book.
three included in that book. Yeah.
I'm renaming it The Broken Road because it's about bikers, and it's the start of the whole story.
Okay.
Because my whole series is kind of a Sons of Anarchy meets Game of Thrones.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So where can people buy your books?
Amazon has most of my books on Kindle and the Nook, but audible.com has my books as recorded books, audio books.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just like listening, I'm like watching a movie, you know?
Yeah.
It's great.
And they can get the paperback and everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
they can do that too. Tom J FRYE is my site. They can go there if they like, but I've been pushing Audible a lot because I think that's where a lot of people are getting into those audiobooks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I think it's great because it's just the guys did a great job recording them.
Good.
And I know how much work goes into it now because the last 4 weeks I've been recording my own book at.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many mistakes. And
yeah.
I watch Hannity at night and I think, God, why does he make so many mistakes? And then I go and I'm doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. But the guy that's doing it is very patient and he goes right back over it. And, you know,
Right.
But so are you trying to get your books in the movies? Is that what you're doing with your screenplay?
No. I write for a television network out of Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Oh.
So a producer that runs one of the stations, he's producing his own project, and so he hired me to write out his ideas because he's a writer too, but he doesn't want to write. He wants to he wanted someone else to write. So yeah, not, you know, I'm not doing my own stuff just yet.
Well, that's awesome though, that he's at least conveying his thoughts and you're
yeah.
scripts.
Yeah, he's super good at it too. Like I actually turned down another job because the person was so disorganized. And I might kick myself later because it could actually turn out to be a pretty big thing eventually, maybe, probably. But, you know, if I'm going to write for someone else, they've got to know what the heck their story is.
What's his topic? What is he writing?
The guy I'm working for now?
Yeah,
it's silly. It's silly B-rated horror. Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Super fun. It's kind of 70s. The genre is kind of 70s horror. You know, we don't get really gross, which is nice, you know, because I'm not into gross horror. You know, I'm not into splatter horror. I'm into the artistic, as artistic as you can get with B-rated, you know, low.
How long are these clips that you do? I mean, how long do you write for? Like a 40-minute, 30-minute? About 40 minutes is what we're looking at. So, you know, I'm looking at, we're figuring on a minute a page. So my scripts are usually running around 45 pages. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty. Dialogue then too and everything.
Oh yeah, dialogue. I even put in like camera shots.
Oh.
Yeah. So
you add in your own music and stuff like that, right?
No, that's up to him. I do like if I think like a certain type of music will go good, I'll be like, okay, so it has to do this right here. It's like, because this is what I heard when I was writing, of like,
there you go.
You know, just like the, you know, the of the Psycho, and you know, we're just it's fun, it's silly, you know.
Wow.
We're not taking ourselves too seriously with
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where is it shown at? On YouTube or?
Well, no, it's not out yet. Yeah, we're just writing the scripts, and he's probably going to start filming this fall if we can get the actors.
Hey, thanks for listening tonight. And if you like us and you want to subscribe to us, check it out on YouTube and audible.com and Amazon, Kindle Unlimited, and tomjfrye.org is my website.
Sure.
So, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah, and you can also you'll also be able to find this on www.judemadelichall.com, as well as the streaming channel subgenres.ca, as in Canada, not California, but subgenres streaming channel on Roku and Android TV. And in the fall of 2022, we will be aired in Kalamazoo, Michigan on Public Media Network. Thank you so much. And thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks a lot.